I hope you're all doing well. I guess I'm a little early, even though I'm a little late, but it is what it is. I changed the time around a little bit. Uh, it's always something, right? So let me turn the chat on. I hope everybody's doing well. It's Friday, right? So that's a plus. I got some pretty interesting stuff to go through, I think, anyway. But before we get into that, as always, we'll let people join if they're gonna. I got some other stuff to talk about in the meantime, stuff that I still think is kind of important to talk about, and one of them being on my birthday, FBI shoots and kills Utah man. What else is new? Wanted for threats against Biden before the president's visit. Now, what's interesting to me is they went and dug through this guy's social media and found some really old stuff on top of some other stuff that was recent. Now, don't get me wrong, the things that were posted was ignorant. Yeah, you can't, especially this day and age, you can't just go around posting stuff. What's up, Jen? Good to see you. I appreciate you being here. You can't just post anything you want. Freedom of speech is not freedom of speech anymore. Jay Cree, thank you for being here. I'm not sure how long this live stream will be, but it'll probably be a little while yet. Like I said, I got some things I want to cover on a whole separate browser. We'll get into it. But I figured I'll start off with this because there's an obvious, what's up, Nukima? There's an obvious push, and there has been for quite some time, to really erode our freedoms, especially our freedom of speech. That's one of the most fundamental ones that they're doing everything they can in the guise of misinformation and disinformation, hate speech, and the numerous times we've talked about it. But it's things like this that give them kind of justification like this. So like, see, we told you so, right? Like, let me go ahead and just jump through a little bit of this. The FBI shot and killed a man in Utah while agents were trying to arrest him at his home for making threatening statements targeting President Joe Biden ahead of the president's visit to the state. The man, Provo, I don't know how to pronounce it, resident Craig DeLue Robertson, 75, was charged Tuesday with 3 felony counts for threats against the president, making interstate threats. I didn't even know that. Interstate threats, and influencing, impeding, and retaliating against federal law enforcement and officers by threat. Now, I guess my take on this would be we have no just president. We have no, our government has been overtaken by criminals. To me, that much is clear. The moment that they start really, I mean, we shouldn't have gotten this far to begin with, as far as our rights are concerned. I heard something the other day on a video where somebody was suggesting how, if to do this right, like how would we, what's up, Retribution? If we were to do this again, what could we change to make sure that our constitutional rights, our God-given rights, are never trampled by an ever-expanding, power-hungry government? And it should be set up in a way where it's a lot easier to take laws away than it is to pass laws, because every time a law is passed, it is, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, it is a ding against your freedoms. There's very, very, very few laws that expand your freedom. And the government is secondary to the people in this country. It was founded as such. That's what the difference is between this great country or what it used to be and all of the rest. But that takes a lot of dismantling of what we have now to even come close to being able to do something like that. Yes, elections, absolutely not elections by any means. We're well past that. I think Kennedy was the last real president. Now, I'm going to jump. How many people we got? 3. White supremacist arrested after threatening synagogue shooter's jury. A white supremacist reverend was arrested this week after posting threats on social media directed at the jury witnesses in the trial of Robert Bowers in the Tree of Life synagogue, the mass shooting that took place. All this is going to come into play a little later. If I have time to come back to it, because once I get into the other stuff I want to talk about, I might get caught up, like I tend to do sometimes. But what I'm seeing, what my intention is, there's a pattern happening. Not only have we been hearing, the dangers about social media and misinformation, malinformation, all of it, right, being spread around, and how that can lead to people becoming radicalized, domestic extremists, and then domestic terrorists. And we got to solve this problem. If only we had more money, more politicians, bigger government, more agencies, more organizations, more institutions. And then it was only a matter of time before, whether it's PSYOP or not, we start actually seeing people become the targets of these types of arrests, and the FBI, the power of the federal government going after these types of people. What types of people? Well, just people. People posting things that haven't been pre-approved by the mainstream media, the mouthpieces, or the government themselves. All right, let me we'll come back to a lot of the stuff. There's a lot going on the government end. There always is, though, right? They're always trying to screw us over in one way or the other. All right. So, one of you may recognize this video. I received this video, and it fit nicely.
Their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person.
All right, so there's some fascinating things that are taking place right now. How much of it is true? How much of it are psychological operations, or that's all to be determined, and we may never know the extent, the truth, any of it, and we'll have to use discernment and the best judgment that we have to find out what's really going on, if we even can. But there are a lot of crazy things taking place across the world right now, and I think that's to be expected. That'll make more sense when we start getting into the stuff. I want to start with this video here. I think Melissa, was this you that sent me this, or Jen? I'm not sure. I think it was Melissa. But credit where credit's due.
Their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon, kill that person.
Are designed to target specific people. DNA, take their medical profile, can target a biological weapon that will kill.
Now, if you've been following me long enough, that shouldn't be news to you because early on, very, very early on, I'm talking December of 2020, January, like, yeah, it was probably January actually, maybe late January, early February, when some of the first things that I found about Charles Lieber and started looking into the patents and then cross-referencing them with some of the papers that were out about some of these technologies, especially nanotechnologies, and that kind of merging with the biotechnology field. And it became apparent very quickly that they're playing around with DNA as the building blocks of a lot of things, and they're using viruses, vector viruses, meaning they're genetically engineering the whole germ theory thing. People are like, viruses aren't real. Well, yeah, they are. It's a fact. I would love to believe that there's, but the fact is, there are things that can do damage to life form, any organism, and not only that, but you can find that genomic sequence of that virus, take that out of the infected organism, and then transplant it to another one and repeat that process. Therefore, it is something that is outside, genetically speaking, outside of the original organism you infected that can then be taken out of that organism and infected. Jen, thank you. Yeah, this is Jen A's. I get a lot of emails from you guys, so it's hard to keep up with them. Yeah, I'm on Rumble, but you're not probably gonna find me on there. I haven't posted in forever, but I am on there. It's either, I think it's probably the Son of Perdition, because I always change between Perdition Media and the Son of Perdition.
Kill that person or
take them off the battlefield or make them inoperable. So you can't have a discussion about this without talking about privacy and commercial data and the protection of commercial data, because expectations of privacy have degraded.
Odyssey, it's Odyssey, right? It used to be Library, LBRY. They have a lot of my stuff. A lot of my older stuff can be found on BitChute. Telegram, there's actually a Telegram channel that this person named Moon started a while ago and archived some of my videos from years and years ago. And I think it's worth me digging up some of it because, not to toot my own horn, but even years in advance, I called some of these things out to a T, especially dealing with this type of stuff, because to me, it was a clear trajectory that this was the direction that they were going in. I've been warning about the jabs, the technologies inside, well before, like a decade before the pandemic even happened. Then it started coming out across the mainstream media outlets about this new virus that was blah 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 in China, and I don't know. I just had some type of feeling and some intuition that told me to start going through some of my older videos and reposting them on like BitChute and stuff to see if like it would play out in any way, shape, or form like it's happened. A lot of it did, and that led me. A lot of the ideas that I talked about those years back led me down the path that I ended up taking, dealing with these technologies and stuff, and it's hard to find, and they cost, like, a lot of these you have to have subscriptions or you have to find some shisty way to like skirt around it, like using an outdated HS or an H&R Block card for your Emerald Advance or whatever. You can do that type of thing, but it only lasts so long. But I had really good quality information, and I still have some of the subscriptions, but not as many. I had a much bigger following back then, so there was, more people. There was obviously more money coming in. I'm not rich by any means. I barely make it as it is because I'm paying way more than I should per week just to survive. But and thank you, by the way, Melissa, and thank you, Karma Doc. I appreciate it for helping out. it was greatly appreciated. I can definitely relay that. I think there's something more that will be said, and then I'll pass that along. But for anybody that wishes to support the channel at this point, I think the other things kind of cleared up, but so it's on you. I'm not gonna ask anybody anything, but there's links in the description if you'd like to support. So I was looking at a lot of these older videos when this pandemic had started, and it became clear that they were working on something that was more, what's the way to put it, like specific as to who it targets. And some of the sequences were also the very same sequences that were involved in some of these nanotech patents. And it just became this really deep rabbit hole that I think is worth kind of doing every now and then. I feel anyway that I should do like another rundown, because some subscribers come and maybe they're not familiar with any of the work that I did pertaining to any of that stuff, but it's a very, very important, because obviously we didn't know it then, but we were 100% on the right track dealing with all of that. So what does that mean? Where does that lead, and what do we have to look forward to? And I believe it's the type of thing that you're seeing on your screen right now. There will be a day, and we're probably there now, where they can, if they got your DNA, they can target you. They can put things out. I mean, we see the chemtrails, right? They're just massively overhead spraying from horizon to horizon. You could put all sorts of viruses, genetic information, right? Like genetically engineered genomic sequences for a list. And they're already, Bill Gates invested in them. There's already these bioprinters that can produce these things in mass. And then you just do a little bit of genetic engineering and you could take out this person, that person. And so basically you plug in a list to a pretty advanced algorithm. That algorithm already knows it has a preset of things that it needs to include in combination with your DNA, and then boom, produces some type of little concoction. You add that, you probably only need, I don't know, a few ounces. And if you know, like, I would imagine you do like counties or even states at a time. Probably counties would be the most effective. And you would find out everybody, all your dissidents, all the people that you don't foresee being a beneficial member of society for the government. And you could pack all that. It's already designed. When we've seen the inside of the chemtrail planes, right? It's already designed to spray out aerosols across huge swaths of territory. So you do a vial of this person, a vial of that person, and then you put it in one of them big 50-gallon aluminum tanks, and they get sprayed across the county. And by the time it hits ground level, it'll be so dispersed, and the parts per billion will be just high enough where it could infect you and do whatever damage that it needs to do. But it doesn't stop there. It's the technology aspects of these things, the combination of what, not only could they kill you, but if they decide that you'd be more useful as a completely controllable puppet, then that's a possibility too. Like, the amount of power and control that they currently have and are continuously amassing is beyond insidious. I often fail to find the correct words that could properly emphasize how devastating these technologies could be on mankind.
degraded over the last 20 years. Young folks actually have very little expectation of privacy. That's what the polling and the data show. And people will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off with very little intellectual property protection or privacy protection. And we don't have legal and regulatory regimes to deal with that. So we have to have an open and public discussion, and this is going to have to be a political discussion about what does the protection of healthcare information, DNA information, and your data look like, because that data is actually going to be procured and collected by our adversaries for the development of these systems.
And I'll add on as well, when we look on a broader level, who else needs to engage in this? Well, it can be USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. So not necessarily those specific human targets with a particular type of weaponized biological weapon, but also if we look at food security. And what can our adversaries do with biological weapons that are...
Now, when they meet in Aspen with the Aspen Institute, it's like a Bilderberg. Some of the upper echelon, the elitists, the movers and shakers in the globalist world, especially here in the U.S., but that are still globalists, they meet just like they do with the Bilderberg. They meet every year and discuss things. And this is one of the things that they discussed. And obviously, they don't waste time on discussing things that are irrelevant. Everything that they take the time to discuss means that they have given it a lot of thought. Now, you have to ask yourself, why? Are they actually just concerned for the people? I would like to believe that, but all the actions kind of lead me to believe the opposite of that.
Are directed at our animal agriculture, at our agricultural sector. Hoof and mouth disease, highly pathogenic avian influenza, African swine fever, all of these.
Now, we've seen this. I've covered this at length as well. And she's absolutely right. But I believe the call is coming from within the House. I think these things are being done en masse to all countries, and they're done by their own governments. And it's, like I often say, depopulation is the name of the game. There are a lot of other things that coincide with that, but the major goal that they have by 2030 is a substantial elimination of the majority of people that are currently living on this planet. And they're doing that in large part by attacking our food. That's been shown in so many different ways, whether it be, the massive fish die-offs, millions and millions and millions of fish just keeling over instantly. And then we have also seen the videos of them releasing something called Nox fish into heavily fished rivers. Then there's also been some strange things off I think it was the Atlantic Ocean, where tons of tuna just went belly up. These things are happening all across the world, and they're happening in numbers that we've never seen before, never even really could imagine. What was it last year? It was like by the time of the bird flu scare, which didn't affect any birds, barely. Like, they would eliminate 20 million chickens because one bird looked sick, didn't even get tested yet. They were like, oh, slaughter them all. Now, that's not the way you go about anything like that, right? There's more at play here. Then we've seen the 100 and some odd food manufacturing facilities burnt down. Well, countless. I mean, look at what Bill Gates got these patents right now for the seeds that can grow with diminished sunlight. Well, what is Bill Gates trying to do with the sun? Well, he's trying to block it out. He keeps pushing towards that goal, and he keeps making the case that global warming, right? We need to block the sun with, whether it's sulfur dioxide particulates or aerosol, carbon calcite or calcinite, I'm not sure exactly what it is, or even ocean salt. There's a lot of different things being proposed. None of it is beneficial to the people, especially dealing with crops. Look what they're doing to the farmers in the name of going green. They're destroying the food supply. And one of the ways that they're going to be able to succeed in this is, again, genetic manipulation, viruses. Now, viruses, plants can catch a virus. Don't think of virus in the sense that they have always told you what a virus is. Think of a virus as a short code, a specific code. Just like you have a computer or your phone. That phone is loaded with different programs and different codes. Now, it doesn't take a lot of code. You could pull something out that your phone already runs on, and you can make a couple changes and alter a couple things and feed it back to it, kind of switch it out without it knowing, and give it a virus. It's called a worm or a Trojan. That's the same principle that's behind a lot of the what when she's sitting there talking about the food that's at risk. To me, that's what I think of, because they are spending a tremendous amount of money in developing the research that would be needed to actually do this at scale, to wipe out countless amounts of people.
These things have circulated around the globe, but if targeted by an adversary, we know that it brings about food insecurity. Food insecurity drives a lot of other insecurities around the globe. So a few years ago, I had a big fight in the NDAA where we were talking about putting in protections for our food sources here in the...
Is Shannon in here too? Guys, if you got channels, because some of you do have channels, leave me a comment after this loads. Come if you can remember. Leave, because I'm doing another thing. I got something in the works. It'll be a little ways off, but if you have in the comments, this is how you do it. Get it if you write a comment and then leave the link. What you have to do, you have to write the comment, send, and then reply to yourself and write hi. Make sure you write something. You can't just you can't just include the link. You have to actually physically write something in reply to your previous comment. So this is a way to do it. Say, hey Dustin, this is my channel. Enter or send, right? Now the comments there. Reply to your comment and be like, here's the link, and then paste the link. Please do that if you have one, because I'm collecting a lot of channels that I think are... don't worry about it. We'll cross that bridge later.
In the United States, but once you paint food security as a national security, it got included. So, there's a number of ways we can look at biological weapons and the need to make sure not only are we securing human beings, but then also the food that will sustain us.
Pretty serious. Synthetic bioweapons are coming. Yes, they are. But the fact that the U.S. Naval Institute is telling us that kind of is alarming. And the fact that they posted the first prize of some contest that they had for emerging and disruptive technology essays speaks volumes to me. Gene editing advances pose a serious threat. Yeah, of course they do. And the thing with CRISPR-Cas9, guys, is you don't even need to be that savvy. I know enough. I personally know enough where if I had the tools of CRISPR-Cas, which I could easily obtain, just a couple of searches onto some medical sites, and I could obtain everything I need. And most people are biohacking and they're trying to make themselves have bigger muscles and stuff like that. Now that's a more difficult thing. That's a lot more untested, but there's a ton of information out there of things that can already be done, genes that can be spliced effectively without harming the virus or the vector, and it can be the amount of damage you could do. Somebody, am I buffering? Are you guys still with me? I just got the signal, so I want to make sure before I continue on. Mic check. Let me turn the Wi-Fi off then. Okay. Just let me know if it starts acting up on me. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. God bless you. God bless all you guys. Like, I really appreciate it, especially now. I do my best to help out when I can, and I've been in myself. Just to be real with you guys for a minute, I have been in no situation to help anybody. Like I myself, and I don't like saying this because I don't want anybody to feel bad and donate on those terms, because that's not at all what this channel is for. But like since all that shit went down in my last apartment, like I cannot find my footing. Like thing after thing is thrown at me. I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money per month right now, like over $2,200. I only make like $550, $600 a week. So yeah, and if it wasn't for Pam, I'd be on the streets right now. So thank you. Actually, if it wasn't for Pam, Jen, Melissa, and Karma Doc, I'd literally probably be on the streets, because all the money that I had and everything, it was not enough to like do what I had to do to face that. So you guys really, and that keeps me like, it's easy to get really pessimistic about humanity, but like some of you guys especially continually, and obviously my wife and my family and stuff, but like keeps me having hope. If I didn't do this, it would be kind of easy to get lost in the nonsense of it all, right? Because we're constantly bombarded. Even though I think kind of intelligent and I am really good at discerning things, I still see a lot of evil, and it's ever expanding and ever increasing evil, and people are doing more and more dirty shit to each other. But it's like when people are down, and this is the way I've always been. Like I hate seeing anybody in distress. If I can help out, even when I don't have it, I'll try to help. And that's kind of the case as of recently. Like I said, I'm not in any great shape to help anybody, but I definitely will try to. And you guys are obviously very similar in that regard, and I can't thank you enough, because it has really helped. Not just me, it's helped other people. And I always let you know what the deal is. I try to be as real with you guys as I can. I think that's, I don't know. I just have little respect, if any, for the people that are always, and not, each to their own. Some people make videos and they, do it for money. So I guess it's a little different, but there's a lot of channels that are always trying to milk as much as they can out of people, and I don't know. I try to do the opposite of that. That's why I don't like bringing it up. However, I won't. It's not cheap, right? A lot of those sites that I talk about, like I might even have a couple up. A lot of that stuff costs money, like $40 subscriptions and stuff like that, and that's where you get especially dealing with the technologies that I like to deal with. And a lot of those you can't, fortunately, it's not like it was years ago online when you could just go to to these websites and it was just given to you. Right now it's like, oh, you 3 months, your first 3 months are free, but after that it's $49.99 per month and blah blah blah. And I've gotten rid of most of the ones that I had because there's no need for them. There's some of them that will have all the, like, for half the price, for like $20, and they'll have everything included. It was just a learning curve, and I'll probably still find other ways around it in the future, hopefully. And my goal is to be able to just access this stuff without having to pay a dime, like, or what the real originally was before the shadow banning and the constant elimination of channels. Early on, when I was still able to like grow naturally, and I couldn't, like, I'd gain, you know, it still was a little slow, but that's what my intention was. I wanted to do this full time and have advertisements, you know, like have videos that would clearly not be monetized, stuff that I would bring the truth in, and then there would be stuff where I would kind of dance around, but they made that damn near impossible. Like, how am I supposed to do that now? So that brings me to and I'll get back to this here in a second, but that brings me to another thing that I'm considering. I think I already created the channel. I've told you guys about it. It's scratching the surface. It's got this cute, I might change it. It's a praying mantis, which is my favorite insect. But I might change it to octopus, which is my favorite cephalopod. Actually, it's my favorite animal, period. But that's, who cares about that? But what I want to do is be really nonchalant about the information. Still make it entertaining and still, like, bring just enough information to people where it's, like, new to them, maybe to the people, because there's a lot of people waking up now, right? Especially since COVID and with everything going on in the left-right paradigm, people are starting to wake up. Many of them kind of falsely, you know, they're catching on to how the government is, at least. But I may be able to expand a channel like that, and then once it gets big enough, then I can start introducing some deeper ideas. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. So back to this. I just want to. I did all that basically just to say thank you. God bless you guys. Throughout the years, there's been, especially that last time, you literally, like, I mean, I always find a way. I'm sure I would have, one way or the other. I just don't know how uncomfortable it would have been before I did. And thanks to the people that I named, and if I'm forgetting somebody, I'll make sure to make it up, because if it hits me later on, I'll do a separate video just to rethink everybody that did it. So God bless you, for real. I mean that. The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed critical weaknesses in the human domain of warfare at just the moment technology has emerged that gives bad actors new power to exploit those weaknesses. Developments in synthetic biology will create next-generation bioweapons. Again, this is coming from the U.S. Naval Institute, and they had an essay contest. And they don't just give this to, like, you know, grade school people. This is for people that are in the U.S. Naval Institute. People that, and this won first place. And they thought it important enough to put it on their website, which is something that we should pay attention to. A human domain plague. Wow, what a nice thing to say, Jen. I appreciate that. That almost makes me want to steer off into another whole rant of something else, but that day will come. That day will come. In March 2020, press release praising the effectiveness of its preventative medicine, the Navy proudly declared no cases of COVID-19 have been diagnosed aboard any of the U.S. 7th Fleet Navy vessel. 1 week later, cases were spreading so rapidly, the USS Theodore Roosevelt effectively became mission kill. I don't know why they said mission kill, but it's mission kill. It would be unnecessary there. Anyway, COVID-19 has demonstrated that biological threats are almost entirely unaffected by sophisticated kinetic, cyber, and electromagnetic defenses, meaning you can't do nothing about it. The French aircraft carrier, jabs, vaccines will solve the, right? Like, I'm sure Big Pharma has a solution. The French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle reported in April 2020 that 60% of her crew was infected with COVID-19. French admiral. So what? We already knew the numbers. We already knew that, like, you had a 99.99999% chance of surviving it, unless you were 80 degrees old, 340 pounds, had diabetes and high blood sugar. I don't think it was about killing anybody. I think, and I got to be careful here, but I think COVID did a couple of things. It was used to get as many people inoculated as possible because they need people inoculated. That's all I'll say. If you know what I mean by that. And then the virus itself, and what I've been able to find about it, leads me to believe that they are like hand in glove. I gotta get off this platform so I can talk freely. Stealthy, insidious virus. It can be debated whether U.S. or French, blah, 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 blah. What did I think about this paragraph? Is that they kind of messed up, whoever it was writing this essay. The socially transmitted vector, because that's exactly what it is. As I said earlier, a vector is it's a term used, especially in virology, when they use a virus to give you genes that you didn't have before. It is genetic engineering. I could, if I knew what I was doing to a certain degree, and I could even use CRISPR-Cas9 for this, I could create a vector virus. And I could cut and paste, essentially it's what it is with CRISPR-Cas, a certain genomic sequence, let's say out of, I don't know, the Toxoplasma gondii, which is a microorganism that has been known to hijack the brain and do havoc to the nervous system. It's effectively mind control, the Toxoplasma gondii. Gondii, I believe. And there might not be an H, but I believe there's an H. Toxoplasma gondii. We've covered it along with the Hydra vulgaris. Now, these things were used, I believe, because they have very specific genes that would be useful for things like optogenetics, which is mind control through certain light wavelengths, through light frequencies. Everything that I've seen, and it would be so hard for me to like, I wish I could, to a certain degree, just like pour all the information that I have studied and researched all out in one video somehow. But I can't. Something like a mess. Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could. Exactly. So, it's perfectly feasible, but the fact that they even said calling COVID a vector, well, what is it a vector of? Well, they know, right? A lot of these people know, the ones that are behind it. And I do too. I believe I do anyway. I'm almost certain that this is my opinion, obviously, but it's a well-informed opinion. The virus gave us anybody that caught it, including myself, did things dealing with certain genes that most people, other than like 6% of the population, they don't have. And I forget the exact name of it right now. I think it's opsin, right? Rhodopsin. Opsin gene, and it produces the rhodopsin protein. So this is really unheard of in people. However, since people have caught COVID, there have been genetic readouts that show people are producing rhodopsin in really high concentrations. And why would that be something that would be important? Well, it just turns out that optogenetics would require that, right? Because light doesn't really have a lot of effect on us, especially our neurons. But if you can get and bypass the blood-brain barrier, is no problem for a virus, right? It depends on where it wants to set up shop. And if you genetically engineer it, you can control that as well. And I believe that's exactly what happened with COVID. All evidence supports that as well. So now we have a new, for anybody that caught COVID, has a new genetic, a new gene, essentially, that produces rhodopsin, which is key. It's absolutely fundamental for turning on and off neuronal functions, meaning that's how we think. Certain neurons fire. It's just like a computer. It really is. It's like almost binary code, on and off. When certain neurons fire and the synapses, they release the chemicals and it gets bypassed to the next one, and it creates this whole network. It's almost the same thing as how AI learns, right? Like it's damn near identical. Now, if you can control that function of turning on and off through just different light frequencies, you can control what the person thinks at a distance through light, through strobing effects, through changing the light spectrum, all sorts of ways. And you could literally create emotions, thoughts, attitude, all sorts of things. Now, I believe that's one of the functions, but that comes from the Toxoplasma gondii, by the way, which also, man, I could go on all day about this stuff. But in combination with the jab, I think that they are safe and effective. I forgot where I was for a second. Very safe, very effective. So go get your 9th booster. I'm going to just jump ahead before I get a strike. Genetically engineered bioweapons, a new breed of weapons for modern warfare. This was back in 2013. I actually had this on a thumb drive, and I was going through some stuff the other day, and I already want to talk about this. This isn't even the video I want to make dealing with it. I'm still working out some things. I'm trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. Because I don't think it's going to be here on YouTube on this channel. But nonetheless, I'm still doing what I do and like chronicling things for different videos. But anyway, I stumbled across this and I was like, how appropriate. This was back in 2013. Genetically engineered bioweapons, a new breed. Genome sequencing has given rise to, and this was one of my very first videos, guys, on my very first channel. And it was, I doubt, maybe, I think there's one subscriber. Now, I don't even know on this one. I think I lost them after I've just lost my last channel. I haven't seen them since. That was, for my first channel, it was like a gaming channel. But I also did other things as well. Like, it was kind of like a crossbreed. Every now and then, I would run through some stuff that I thought was important. It was like a half-assed version of what I was just talking about I want to do with Scratching the Surface channel. Sky car straight till 2025. Genome sequences have given rise to a new generation of genetically engineered bioweapons carrying the potential to change the nature of modern warfare and defense. Introduction. Biological weapons are designed to spread disease among people, plants, and animals through the introduction of toxins and microorganisms such as viruses and bacteria. The method through which a biological weapon is deployed depends on the agent itself, its preparation, its durability, and the route of infection. Attackers may disperse these agents through aerosols or food and water supplies. Yes, they can. Although bioweapons have been used in war for many centuries, a recent surge in genetic understanding, as well as a rapid, and this was back in 2013 before GPT-4. And GPT-4 is what we have access to, so they probably got something to the equivalent of GPT-5. Already what GPT-4 can do dealing with geneticists, like not even that, just anything, protein folding, genetic, it's insane, absolutely ridiculous how powerful this AI is. So it would be absolutely nothing for it to figure out how to put certain things together. And then keep in mind what I was talking about earlier with, the specific targeting of individuals through genetic manipulation. As well as rapid growth in computational power, has allowed genetic engineering to play a larger role in the development of new bioweapons. In the bioweapon industry, genetic engineering can be used to manipulate genes to create new pathogenic characteristics aimed at enhancing the efficacy of the weapon through increased survivability, infectivity, virulence, and drug resistance. While the positive societal implications of improved biotechnology are apparent, the black biology of bioweapon development may be one of the gravest threats we will face. And obviously we know what the limits were, but recent advances, and this was back in 2013, keep in mind, as researchers continue to transition from the area of DNA sequencing into the era of DNA synthesis, this is what I was talking about earlier, literally using DNA as the building blocks of everything that they're creating now, building it bottom up instead of going from a top-down approach, like trying to pull things off and figure out what's what. We know now. We know what it is. We've figured it out. Now we can build it from the very things that create life itself and give it its function and tell it to produce the proteins that are needed, DNA. And now we can build things literally gene by gene by gene and create our own vector viruses that can do whatever it is that we want them to do. And it's limitless. Limitless. It is I don't even know how to put this. It's as limited as it is to the person's imagination. If they are wise enough, know how to, and you don't even need a person that can do all these things, just have a team and then give the certain instructions to the people that would be best fitted for that job. So you would need somebody that is probably really good with AI and a programmer. You need a geneticist, a virologist, and that's pretty much it. And you could create whatever it is that you want. It is evil personified. These people, we are so in the end days. It's absolutely insane to me. Now, I'm going to jump over to this real quick. Let me see if I can find something on YouTube real quick about this. Peru aliens.
Peru aliens.
With SpotMe, I can overdraft up to $200 fee-free.
Install the Chime app today.
Describe what it is that we're going to be going over.
Yeah, as you said, you and I were just having a casual conversation about the events that have been transpiring in Peru over the last couple of weeks. And we decided, let's turn on the cameras and record this conversation because this is, I think it's quite compelling, actually. I'm not 100% sure what to make of it yet, but it is very compelling for several reasons. And I can set the stage here. And then I know you want to show some videos that we were discussing, but to set the stage, something very strange is happening in the Peruvian Amazon, specifically in the village of San Antonio, which is in the Amazon jungle. It's in the district of Alto Nanay, northwest of the city of Iquitos. That's serious jungle. How do I know that's serious jungle? Because I have spent a lot of time precisely in that region of the jungle. These are members of the Iquitu tribe, Iquitu, I-K-I-T-U, Iquitu tribe. And there aren't many members, only a couple of thousand members of this tribe, and this is part of their territory. They're in the Alto Nanay. They have a village, and this village has been, apparently, according to these villagers, has been attacked repeatedly over the span of a couple of weeks at least. So this incident...
Now, I used to like Timothy Alberino a lot. He's a very intelligent person. He, can you turn it down one notch? He has a lot of really good stuff, a lot of good takes. I'm a little hesitant about trusting this guy. I've probably followed him a good portion of his career. If you're a person just looking for knowledge and an interesting take on religion and Christianity, he is a solid source. But if you're talking about verse, if you're talking about biblical scripture, you got to be careful with this guy, because I've seen him turn certain verses on their head and change, not just change them, like his interpretation of them, but literally change the verse itself. Now, that's not enough for me to just write somebody off, but I've been seeing more of this, and I'm wondering if he's one of these types of people that are planted well in advance. Now, I don't think that yet. To me, I still follow him. I just take what he says with a grain of salt. But keep that in mind in the future as you're going through them. Just same thing with me. Never just absorb, and you guys already know this, but never just absorb anything in totality without a certain level of skepticism, right? Like, always be a little critical, even of people that you absolutely trust. Because you never know. You never know. But nonetheless, I thought this was a pretty interesting take. So it's Aliens Attack Village in Peru. So go and watch it if you got time, after the video.
Has been ongoing. I think the news is just now breaking about it. And by the way, what we're about to talk about is all over the Peruvian news, all over mainstream Peruvian news. I've been watching mainstream Peruvian news for the last 2 days, and they're covering it in a very interesting manner. They're covering it in a serious way.
It's a serious issue. Now, we'll come back to this. But before we do, I want to cover some of these articles that I got up. Yeah, I love a lot of Timothy Alberino's videos. I read some of his book, what I was able to access. I didn't order it, but got great takes, especially with what I think about how this all started as far as the human species. I think his early interpretation of the Bible is pretty spot on, but it's some of the newer stuff that I've been hearing him say that like I said, I'm not discrediting him. It's just like everybody makes mistakes. So I can attribute to that. Maybe he just got the wrong verse mixed up with another verse and kind of tied them in. But there was a couple instances where he was clearly misrepresenting. And that could be an ego thing, right? That could be just like you're trying to make your case so bad that you maybe out of turn just took something and was like, yeah, I'm going to try to make it. Like, we're all human. We make mistakes. We do stuff. So that's what I want to chop it up as. I don't want to think it's nefarious. But at the same time, I'm not just going to blindly ignore stuff either. I tell you, it's state. If I start seeing a pattern, those are things to pay attention to. But right now, I'm just speaking my mind. That's all. Armed 7-foot tall green aliens allegedly removed a man's face in Peru. Now, that's a pretty shitty picture on the left, but there is a very clear, I can't say very clear, but a much clearer version of this image. And what it is, it's an alien gray. Your typical alien gray with the bulbous head and the big black eyes can be seen. It's a bad picture of it, but that's what's essentially is the case that's being made. Now, the Peruvian government has since come out and said that these are miners, coal miners, and there is a history to this, a tradition of getting people off lands that the coal miners want to use, and they would do this by dressing up as demons or the Indictu, or there's other names for the different types of things that they would dress up as and try to terrorize the villagers so they could then move on in. But this is nothing of that sort. Now, at the same time, I believe they are going to usher in Project Bluebeam or Project Bluebeam, right? I don't think that's going away, but I don't think they need to do it in the way that they foresaw themselves having to back when that was leaked. Since then, we have made tremendous strides with things like the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, right? And not just that, but quantum computing. We've seen, what was that guy's name? What is his name? The guy that's like talking about standing next to one of these quantum computers is like standing next to an alien altar. I've covered him quite a bit. But anyways, that he also talks about reaching in other dimensions and pulling things through. This is something that our governments of the world, or the people that are controlling the resources of these governments, have vested a lot of time and a lot of money to create these technologies. And the people that are at the heights, that are at the top of that food chain, say things like the director of technology did at CERN, that we might send something through, or we might allow for something to come through to this dimension from the other side. Was it Marty or Martin? Damn it, what is his name? Keep wanting to say Bell, but it's not. Geordie Rose, that's who it is. Not the CERN guy, but the quantum computer. Now, he's got a lot of strange things, Geordie Rose, dealing with quantum computing, just like CERN has. There's a lot of stuff dealing with bringing things in from another dimension. And what's also interesting about these is they tend to have occultic, ritualistic types of things surrounding them. For example, the mock sacrifice that took place at CERN. Now, they didn't know they were being recorded from a distance, but it ended up showing this, whoever recorded it was like, look at this. Look at what's going on near the Shiva statue at CERN. And then once that happened, they had to address it. And what did they say? Oh, it was all in fun. They were just playing a prank. No. You BS. I don't buy that for 1 second. And that's because the people that are doing this aren't doing this for nothing. They intend on opening gateways, opening dimensional doors so that they can bring things through. We are in the end times. Yep, that's what I said, Shannon. Jordy Rose. And we know I would imagine most of you have probably read Revelations or Matthew or some of these books that speak of the wonderful things that await us. Like the locusts, like the pits opening up and releasing the 7 plagues. The small rural district of Alto Nane in Peru is under attack, at least according to its distressed residents. The Akitu indigenous people who inhabit the region claim that 7-foot-tall translucent green aliens have been terrorizing the town since July 11th and are launching nightly assaults on residents, still continuing to this day. These gentlemen are aliens. They appear to be armored like the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Yada, yada, yada. Essentially, that there's some crazy shit going on in Peru. But I remember something not all that long ago that we're going to talk about. But guys, other than the Congress and the whistleblower and everything, like, we are being inundated right now. Look at this. How many UFO sightings have been reported in the tri-state this year? I believe that's Microsoft, right? Yeah, MSN. How many UFO sightings were reported in New York this year? MSN. But then we go into USA Today, WGN Radio, Palm Beach Post. And yeah, these are like spin-offs of the same thing, but like there's articles for each state talking about UFOs, because they want people that might be interested in local news to still have their news feed inundated with UFOs and extraterrestrials and the alien presence. And they're clearly making the case right now that we are not alone. And I don't believe that they're doing that for no reason. I think I'm way off on the time frame, because I didn't foresee any of this alien shit happening till like late 2025, early 2026. But since that whole Chinese balloon saga, which to me seems like the opening, it was like Pandora's box essentially for this whole thing. Since then, it's only been increasing. And it's kind of been exponentially increasing to the point now where we're hearing about actual aliens peeling people's faces off in Peru. And it's not just that. There's other stuff as well. As the U.S. shoots down UFOs, people are talking about the fake alien invasion predicted to begin in 2024. In just the past month, the United States has shot down not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 unidentified flying objects in North American airspace. The government is hesitant to give specific answers and appears to be offering only limited information about the objects to the public, leaving many of us understandably wondering what those objects are and what they're doing hanging around. What's up, We Free? Good to see you. So, what's going on with that? Right, we go from Chinese spy plane, and I was covering each one of these 4 as they were happening, and then it goes into the other stuff as well, right? I think it was that not RFK, but the other Kennedy there, talking about aliens, right? Saying that there's more to this, and they're not letting us on, and it just kept getting stranger and stranger. And then the whistleblower, and that to me, that guy's the biggest active duty agent that I've ever seen. He looks like a reptile. He is probably literally an alien giving off testimony to Congress about the alien presence. That is a huge CIA psyop. I'm certain of that. I'm not, I don't have any inside information, but all the flags are flying red on that one. Government is hesitant to give specific answers. Yeah, are they? These recent unknown aircrafts appearing in the sky have given way not only to new conspiracy theories, but to resurfaced discussions of old ones. In particular, many are speculating that the theory known as Project Bluebeam. What is Project Bluebeam? Well, like many other theories about the presence of extraterrestrial life, notice they like to throw in the word conspiracy theory when we're talking about absolutely anything and everything, and especially the debate on UFOs and alien life always had the word conspiracy before theory. Not now for some reason. Now they dropped the conspiracy aspect of it. And now when we talk about Project Bluebeam, it just says like many other theories about the presence of extraterrestrial life. Talk of Project Bluebeam began decades ago. Project Bluebeam, NASA, is reported to be a conspiracy theory introduced by Canadian investigative journalist that's exactly what I mean right there. Many other theories, right? That if we were talking about, I don't know, any one of the major mainstream narratives that are being pushed upon the people right now, if we were to talk about them and the media would talk about us talking about them, the word conspiracy would be the first thing that we seen. But it's interesting that it's small stuff like this that I pay attention to, guys, because they're changing the orientation of how they're framing it. Yeah, of course they're going to is reported to be a conspiracy theory introduced by Canadian investigative journalist Sergei Monast, I don't know how to pronounce that, Monast, in the mid 1990s. The theory claims that members of the Pentagon, NASA, and the United Nations were collaborating on a plan to simulate a fake alien invasion and staged Second Coming using hologram projections. In doing so, he asserted they would eliminate all traditional religions. FBI coordinated effort to label Catholics domestic terrorists. This is ongoing. This is every day now. Christian nationalists, domestic terrorists, domestic extremists, and Christians are obviously the ones that are under attack the most in the end days, and we're seeing it now, guys. You're literally talking about the FBI and the DHS going after Catholic organizations and Christian fundamentalists. That's going to be a video in and of itself. There is so much happening to Christianity right now across the entire world. And I think this all ties in. We're starting to see these pieces come together. And it fits perfectly with the Great Deception, where this is what I would imagine it would be. It'll probably be something akin to finally they show themselves openly, right? There'll be like some major meeting between, prominent figures and the aliens themselves, and they're going to say something like, "We've always been here guiding humanity ever since they were coming out of the caves," right? We inhabited, or we created genetic bodies in human form so that we could better represent ourselves in a way that would be acceptable to people. They will say there are things like Jesus. They will say they were here giving us all of the 10 Commandments. the Bible, the Quran, all of it, right? They were the ones that provided all of this knowledge, and now we can all come together under one blanket. Whatever the new thing is that they bring out, which will probably be created by AI, and it'll be the new guidelines. It'll probably be something like the Georgia Guidestones, right? Like, we need to keep perpetual balance with nature. A lot of these stories that have happened that have gained major media traction throughout the years, decades, that involved mass sightings have usually, not without fail, but usually the message that they received was that we're harming nature, we're destroying the planet, and there's too many of us, which is kind of sounding familiar this day and age.
And I would even use the word grave. I mean, they're very, almost as if they're frightened by what they're talking about. So it's the Peruvian news is not joking about this. RPP Noticias and La República and different Peruvian newspapers and news outlets are taking this very seriously. So, as I said, this is occurring in the village of San Antonio with the Iquitu tribe. So they've been apparently under assault during the night by entities, let's call them. We don't know what they are. We don't know if they're human beings dressed in costumes. We don't know if they're...
It's interesting he says human beings dressed in costumes, because something happened not too long ago. Let me see if I have it up. Hopefully I do. No, I don't. But let's go ahead and search it.
According to portside.org, beginning in June, detachments of U.S. troops will be arriving in Peru and staying until December 31, 2023. Peru's Congress, supported by only 6% of Peruvians, on May 26 approved a resolution introduced in January that authorized the entry of naval units and foreign military personnel with weapons of war.
For what? For what? Why did we go into Peru? Guys, the U.S. military, that's pretty big news. I didn't hear about it. Only when I started digging into this Peru shit that I found out that the military just went into Peru. Like, right before this started happening. Now, we know that they have insane technology. Well in advance of what it is that we're aware of. And I believe they've been keeping it so lock and key and so compartmentalized that they can pull something like this off without necessarily having the permission or the assistance of an actual alien race. It very well could be the case that they had received or found actual UFOs, right? Whether that's demonic or extraterrestrial, who knows? But I do believe that they are in possession. There's countless there's a lot of evidence to support that, right? And not only that, but like right after Roswell, after that crash, you got to look at like the technologies that came out from like Bell Labs, General Electric, right? Like, I mean, fiber optics, transistors, circuit board technology, silicone, all sorts of insane technology that in the normal progression of things would have taken like 100 more years at least, especially fiber optics. That came out of nowhere. And the technology for fiber optics isn't something you just stumble across unless you literally just stumble across. There's like with anything, like there's a lead up to that technology. It blows my mind. Yeah, that's a good question, Jen. Or maybe they're trying to just see how they'll be able to pull this off. Just like they do when they go into like Sub-Sahara and Bill Gates tests out his new jabs, right? He's like, "Whoa, we got to see," and then they'll do the blood tests on them, for like 2 years after they give these people their vaccines. Maybe this is something similar. Maybe they're just finding kind of like a secluded area that's not, that's not a mate like a US or China or Russia or UK, France, Germany. Not like a major first world country that it'll be super, popularized. If you do it in Peru, there's like a distance to it. Like how many people will talk about Peru, it's like kind of you can separate yourself from it. For now, it's a good place to test something like this. Now, from some of the reports that I've been seeing, these creatures that are 7 feet tall have these things in the bottom of their shoes, I guess, their boots, whatever it is that they're wearing on their feet, that are like LED in a way. They give off this strange glow of light, and it keeps them afloat. It keeps them hovering in air. Now, this to me is perfectly feasible anti-gravity technology that has been in the developments for decades that I'm sure we have. I'm positive we have. So it wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination to assume that that technology that they've had for decades, they've improved upon and miniaturized as they do with everything, and allow that to be something that could be fitted to a person, allowing for the perception, because to anybody that sees these types of things, and not to mention like the metamaterial, right, that we've been researching, and there's countless crazy patents. I should do a video on that as well. Material mechanics, like we have come so far in material that I think a lot of people aren't even aware. Like most people think of like Kevlar or carbon fiber or even graphene, right, as like being the cutting edge of like that's old technology. We got liquid solids. We had like crazy stuff. So these creatures apparently have been shot all to hell and they're bulletproof. Well, I'm sure the military has this type of science where they can create these metamaterials that allow bullets to just bounce off of them. And it's been kept so secret that one day they would start using these technologies because they knew that the population would not be aware of them. So what's the saying? Any highly advanced technology would be considered alien to those that were unfamiliar with it, right? Like, or magic. It would be considered magic. That's kind of what it would be if the government has been doing this behind closed doors for decades upon decades, advancing, paying the brightest minds and swearing them to secrecy so they could create these technologies. That way, one day, when they want to pull the wool over our eyes for one last time and tell us that this is what's happening and this is the only way that we have to go about it. Good to see you, We Free. Glad you stopped in, brother. Then they'll have the technology that they need to go about doing it. And I think that's what we're seeing here, guys. I think this is a type of Project Bluebeam, but I think it's in a whole different way. And on top of that, I do believe that they're bringing in the demonic realm. I think that they're going to try to confuse the people into believing that they are actual extraterrestrials when in fact they're of the demonic nature. We are in a spiritual war, and if you're in a war, you want to bring in the big guns. And if you're on the other side, your big guns are demons. And well, we've seen they've been doing shit with CERN. All of a sudden, CERN got shut up. What's happening in CERN is on the hush hush right now, other than like stupid little experiments. But that is the Great Deception, and I believe that is coming a lot sooner than I think a lot of us anticipated. Next year is 7 years since the last solar eclipse. That when this next one goes through the United States, it creates a giant X across the United States, the new Babylon. I think we're in for a ride, guys, but as long as we know where our heart lies and who to trust and who our Father is, who God is, then I think we will be just fine and we won't be deceived. And I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys being here. I got so many things I want to talk about in future videos. Leave comments. Let me know anything that you would like me, because like I said, I'm all over the place right now. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a lot of things going on. So if there's something in particular you want to see, other than nanotechnology, because I'm working on my own thing with that, and it's taken a while because, well, that's my bread and butter as far as I'm concerned. I love the nanotechnologies. Like that's what I really enjoy looking into. So I kind of let that dictate its own course. I don't force anything. I don't do anything. But this all the other stuff I'm trying to absorb as much as I can, as fast as I can, and still try to fact check everything and make sure that it's accurate or whatever the case may be. But if you want to hear something or you want me to talk about something in specific, just throw it in there. I'll do my best to make sure that we do that. All right, guys. I really appreciate everything. Thank you for joining the stream, and I hope you guys really enjoy your weekend. I'll probably pop in tomorrow sometime. Thank you. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. And thanks for the chicken wings. God bless. Much love. Peace.